And welcome back, folks, to We'll Take It From Here with Joe and Dom. My name is Joe.
And I'm Dom.
And you're listening to a show in which two dudes talk about life with the goal to make you think and entertain. Today, we're on episode 63. We have a guest, very special guest from Hardball Cider, Geoff Deen, here with us. But before we get to Geoff and learn about his story, Dom, why don't you take it away? Where can everyone find us?
Guys, you can find us on Instagram at We'll Take It From Here podcast. I'm at Don Shoemaker Jr. Joe is at Joe Francesco 48. Every week we like to do a question and answer segment. Am I looking at you or at the camera?
I don't know, but I definitely didn't look at the camera, but it's all good. I should have looked at the camera, right? But I didn't.
We like to do a question and answer segment every week. So Joe usually puts on the We'll Take It From Here podcast page a little question box. You can send in a question. We do have some great questions every single week, so that's so awesome. You can follow us and watch this actually on YouTube, where we have a really good video setup now. Thank you to Johnny Brown, our new video guy. So that's really cool. So you can check out our new video setup on YouTube. So that's really nice. Make sure you subscribe, like, comment. That's how we grow the show. Our goal is 1,000 subscribers for YouTube because a lot of opportunities open up with that. So thank you to everyone that's subscribed so far. That's really cool. We will share our guest info as well by the end of the show. And we just like to thank you for all your support each week. We just crossed over 3,000 listens for the podcast.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, everybody. So that's so cool. It's really cool to see the show consistently growing. And we just can't thank you enough for all the support. So that's it. Without further ado, let's welcome Geoff. Hardball Cider.
Let's go. Welcome to the show, man. Thank you for coming on.
Thanks for having me today.
Yeah, absolutely. It's our pleasure.
Yeah,
this is awesome. So we have, for your viewers that are looking on YouTube, we have the Hardball Cider. We have 4 here. Don is drinking the Hey Blue Blueberry. Yes. I'm about to dive into this caramel card, which I'm just going to give it a nice little effect. Ready?
Yep. Oh, it's beautiful. That sounded great.
Yeah. Should I say ready?
That's a nice one.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
I love caramel.
A caramel apple or in a glass.
Yeah.
Right
there.
Perfect.
Amazing. Heck yeah. So Geoff, why don't you, this is how the show works. I know I told you before.
Sure.
Tell us your story, man. It goes far back as you want to do. Dig into whatever you want to do. We're definitely going to be talking about the farm, Hardball Cider as well. Sure. But just let our audience and our listeners and viewers know who's Geoff.
Yeah. So Geoff is a 5th generation farmer.
Wow.
So my family property, where all the cider's made today, dates back to my great grandfather, back to the late 1890s. So. Wow. Long history there. Growing up on the farm, as a kid, lots of tree fruit, vegetables. I spent many summers, falls, springs planting, harvesting, mowing, all kinds of different stuff. So no stranger to hard labor. And actually never in 1,000 years thought I would see myself back on the farm doing what I'm doing today. So that was not in the cards many years ago. So I couldn't wait to get away from the farm and kind of do my own thing for a while. Sure. But I think over time, spending almost 20 years in corporate America, I came to the idea, I guess, that I wanted to be my own boss. I wanted to run my own business. And I had this farm that my parents were still operating, but as they were getting a little bit older, retirement was going to be around the corner at some point. And I have this beautiful property that I didn't know what to do with. And my sister moved away from the area, so, she wasn't interested exactly in coming back to the area, any part of the farm. And so I kind of took that piece of it and what I grew up with and knew growing up, and this love of baseball that I had. So I played ball into college.
What college did you play?
I played at Moravian College in Bethlehem.
Okay, yeah.
I didn't go too far from home, 30 minutes away.
Awesome.
And then ended up coaching college softball there. So the college program it's a Division III school, but they were nationally ranked every year when I was there and while I coached. And then I had the opportunity to coach a year of professional women's softball.
Wow.
So a team called the Philadelphia Force back in the day. So
nice.
So just that that energy, that electric, feeling of the crowd coming in. It's 6:30 and the fans are rolling in. They've got their hot dog and beer and whatnot in the seats. Everyone knows that feeling. But you're, instead of sitting in the seats, you're on the field watching these people come in, and you see the little girls and families coming, and they're looking at all these players. So at that time, the more popular players were Cat Osterman was still playing. Trina Peel, like some big names in the softball world. Like these are the women who played and comprised the U.S. national team, the U.S. Olympic team, like awesome athletes. And so I got to work around them every day and learn from them every day. And it was just a really cool experience. So I was still playing ball at the time. It was just a Sunday wood bat league, but I hurt my shoulder. So couldn't really throw the way I used to, and it just kind of hurt to swing a little bit. Mm-hmm. So I was like, well, my playing days are numbered. So let's do something and kind of take both those things, the farm and the softball and baseball background, and put them together.
Yeah. Because
I still wanted to be around the game.
For sure.
So it's something, when I started Hardball, or at least the idea of it, it was, it's going to be the middle of July, a 105 game. What do you want to be drinking? Like, I'm a beer deep. My mouth's already kind of like, I've already sweat that whole beer out and then some. Yeah. Right? But I want something refreshing and something cold that's not water, that's not a soda. And cider kind of fit that bill. It's gluten-free. It was very light, refreshing. It's still carbonated. And you could drink more than one of them without getting that, chalky, your mouth dried out because it's 100 degrees out. Right?
And I feel like if you're at a ball game, you need to have some sort of alcohol, and it's got to be beer. It's got to be
like
beer,
a staple,
right?
Yeah,
exactly.
It's part of the American game.
Yeah.
So anyway, so we created, Hardball Cider, and taking those two things I had, really deep feelings about, strong passions about from life experience, and that's what goes into pretty much every can, every label that gets designed, even down to the logo. It took us months to get to that logo, many iterations. But it's
a good one. I like it. The two baseballs. Nice. So for those of you who are maybe not watching, it's a apple with a baseball. So I guess you call that like stitching. Yeah, the seams. Yep. Yeah. With two baseball bats in the back, and then Hardball Cider. I think it's really good. Yeah, no, you definitely spent a good chunk. That was good.
Yeah, for sure.
Absolutely. You know what I like too? You said how you wanted to get away from the farm so bad, right, as a kid, but it ended up, all that hard work you did ended up creating what you do. Because if I'm not mistaken, you use the apples that you grow from the farm in the cider.
For sure. Yeah. We have 25 acres of fruit trees, so it's not huge, but it's enough for us to take care of. Mm-hmm. But at this point, we've outgrown what we can, what we grow. So we make more cider than the amount of apples that we grow.
Okay.
So right now, I mean, we're, even the past year, every 4 to 6 weeks, we were bringing in another tractor trailer load of apples.
Wow, damn.
Mainly local, other farms in Pennsylvania, growers that we've known for a long time. Okay. Into New Jersey, again, people who we've known, my parents did business with for many years, and even into New York State now. So as the season wears on, the apples get less and less around us in the immediate, hour and a half radius. So a lot of places in New York, because we sit kind of in an apple hotbed here, being that if you kind of start the West Coast, Washington, Oregon are sort of your number 1, number 2 apple producers. New York's number 3, Pennsylvania's number 4, Michigan's number 5. So they're your top 5 apple producing states. But into New York State is where a lot of the fruit that you see at the grocery store, again, outside of like Washington and Oregon, but a lot of New York fruit ends up in our grocery stores around here. Wow. So they have huge cold storage facilities. They control the temperature, they control the atmosphere, they control everything. And so that apple, when it comes out in, September after it's picked and packed for a grocery store, is going to taste the same as the one that they're pulling out of there in June. And they've held them, at a certain temperature, at a certain humidity, whatever. Mm-hmm. And so they're pulling out little blemishes that, there's really nothing wrong with the fruit. Yeah. It just got a little nick on it from a stem, or it got, banged up a little bit as they were picking. We use those apples for cider.
It's perfect.
It's a perfect use for them.
That is awesome. Now, when you make cider, and just in general with apples, I guess, does it depend on like the soil, or do you get to choose what type of apple you're making? So like my favorite are Macintosh, but then there's also Gold Delicious, Granny Smith, Red Delicious, I think, right?
Yeah, you got both Golden Delicious, Red
Golden,
Delicious.
Yeah. Are those dependent on like the actual ground, or do you get to like choose, and like what do you use when you're, or I don't know if you could say that, what you're using when you put in the cider?
Oh, we can. We use a blend of different apples, usually whatever's readily available at a certain time of year. Now, we are getting to the point now where we're a lot more prescriptive about what we're putting in there.
Sure,
We've found flavors in certain varieties we don't like. Okay. And so we don't include those any longer. But yeah, think of it even like wine grapes. Mm-hmm. So The soil, the climate, all those things factor into the fruit that you're going to get. And so apples are no different, really. The biggest thing I will say, and we as a country and as a hard cider category don't yet have a lot of access to actual hard cider fruit, meaning there are varieties, like you just mentioned, a bunch that you'll find at your local grocery store. The ones you won't find are Harry Masters Jersey, Yarlington Mill, Dabinet, Brown Snout. Like, these are all varieties most people have never heard of. And it's not a tree you'd walk up to and pick one off and start eating, because it's going to be really, really hard to get down.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
But they make phenomenal cider.
Oh, interesting.
So it's similar to you go to the grocery store and buy some white grapes or red grapes that you're going to just eat, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, well, you also have vineyards out there that are growing Chardonnay, that are growing Merlot, that are growing whatever.
Mm-hmm.
You're not going to go up to them generally and pick them and start eating them, because there's going to be seeds in them. They're going to have, a different texture to the skin.
Mm-hmm.
Not palatable in most, for most of us, because we're accustomed to what's at the grocery store.
Yeah.
Got it.
But those grapes are going to make really great wine. So we have kind of this thing, if you will, happening in the U.S. of the cider market is growing rapidly still, but we're using these apples that are just sort outs from the stuff that ends up at the grocery store, and no one's yet planting huge blocks of hard cider varieties, because us as cider makers, or we as cider makers, are finding ways that we can make a product that customers enjoy from the culinary fruit, the dessert apples that everyone's already familiar with. So very different than the rest of the world.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's pretty innovative.
Yeah. In a way, yes. We end up with, I'd say more so, like if you just took these ciders without, the raspberry and without the caramel in, it's going to have a flavor to it. Mm-hmm. It's not going to be very strong. It's not going to be very complex in a lot of cases, but it does lend itself well to blending and mixing with other flavors.
Got it.
And so we can use, like, raspberries are very tannic. So there's a lot of complexity in just pure raspberry juice. Mm-hmm. So we can add that to the cider and bring out some complexity, like add in some layers of flavor that you wouldn't otherwise experience in the cider. So we're finding ways as cider makers to do that, but it's not typical as compared to the rest of the world.
Got it.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Man, yeah. I feel like cider has grown immensely, because I do remember this back even before I was able to drink, right? You would see like what's it called? Not strong, but Angry Orchard. Thank you. Yeah. Angry Orchard in the stores. And now, I mean, you have caramel card, we have blueberry, we have raspberry. It's like there's a lot of innovation. And I'm doing my best, by the way, not to say cider beer, because I know Adrian is going to get really annoyed if I say that. I said cider beer, and now he just, every time there's like a meme about, oh, your friend who says cider beer, I get tagged in it all the time.
That's funny.
Yeah, but it's cool to see though, and I don't know, like the different flavors though. How'd you like come up with it? Like,
it was just kind of the thought process of the first 3 ciders we ever made were fastball, curveball, and splitter. Mm-hmm. So a dry apple, a sweet apple, and a semi-sweet apple, and that was it. That's what we started with, and found that as cider started to gain in popularity, because 10 years ago when I started this, and even up to probably 3 or 4 years ago, we'd still go out to festivals and events, and people would come up and they're like, well, what is it? I'm like, it's cider. Well, so it's cider beer. No. Well, is it beer? Like, no, it's hard. It's made with apples. Yeah. Like, well, I don't understand. What is it? Like, you put alcohol in it? Like, no, we already have fermented. Like, it's made exactly like wine, exactly like beer. And you just could not get that thought through to people, that they couldn't understand the concept of that fresh apple cider that you buy in the fall, mm-hmm. right? Everyone wants to buy apple cider in the fall, and their cider donuts. They couldn't understand that we took that juice, that same stuff they were used to drinking, and just fermented it. And so we've gotten to a point now where the market is much more aware of what cider actually is. And when you say cider, that it's actually hard cider, not the fresh pressed kind that, we all make in the fall. But in developing those flavors, what other things started to pair well with apple? Mm-hmm. Berries pair well, we're finding. So we make a raspberry, a blueberry, a strawberry. Citrus does particularly well with cider. Okay. And I think it's just because there's so much acidity in cider naturally that citrus pairs really well with it because it's a different type of acid that's being added.
Interesting.
But we make a blood orange, we make a grapefruit, we make a tangerine, like all kinds of different stuff.
Tangerine sounds yeah.
So you kind of start going through those thoughts of like, well, what's going to pair well with it? And then you get into, well, all right, where else do you see apples? Like, if I'm at the county fair, right, I want a caramel apple right there. And then but I like it with peanuts, so I want a caramel apple with peanuts. So can we make one that's got a peanut flavor to it?
Oh, wow.
So think about well, and then there's the candy apple. So like then you got all three. Candy apple with sprinkles, maybe? I don't know. Well, you might go a little too far. But you never know. So you start thinking about those things, and then we said, okay, well, you find chocolate in wine. You find chocolate in beer, stouts, other things.
True.
Why not cider? So we tried it in cider. We found that it worked. So now we're going down that path of like, well, can we do a chocolate strawberry? Can we do a chocolate raspberry? Can you do, I don't know, s'mores? Like, who knows?
Oh, s'mores sounds delicious.
It might be the worst thing you ever put in your mouth. You have no idea. Until you start, that way, we sit around the kitchen table and go, okay, I've got, 2 burettes in front of me and cans of our curveball. It's just our plain apple, a little bit of sweetness. But we're taking flavors and like titrating flavoring 1/10 of a milliliter at a time into a sample and tasting. And that's how we start to develop flavors, is we just kind of sit around and drink.
So essentially when you're tasting this, you're not really making a full beer, right? So you're not like wasting product, so to speak, I guess is the right term to use. So it's like a little bit at a time.
Yeah.
Okay. So I thought like you had to make the beer and then you taste it and you were like, but.
No, because we'll take, I'll usually use about 100 milliliters. So there's 473 milliliters in one of these cans. Okay. So I'll get almost 5 samples out of a can. So so we can take, a couple of different, like we had a bunch of different chocolates. Yeah. And so one at a time, 100 milliliters, pour out 5 glasses of 100 milliliters. And then I've got 5 different chocolates. So we're going to test each one. And then we're going to test a different concentration and maybe we get a different flavor. And so you just keep going through that over and over and over again until you either find the right combination of things, either percentage of flavor with your cider base, or you might go, these are all terrible, we're going to start over and get more samples. So every flavor starts that way, though. Some of the early ones were just, I think, they just happened to work without going through that tedium of testing everything before it goes into a batch. So there was some early on days that I just would dump in some stuff and it would come out fine and we'd go with it.
Well, your recipe though, awesome. the formula works though, because right now as you were saying that into it, I'm drinking, it's like this does taste like I'm having a caramel apple on a stick walking around in a fair, right? It's perfect. Like you can't go wrong with it. No. It's smart.
Make sure you save a couple of drops of that for me.
You want to taste it right now?
Actually, I'll try.
There you go. Can I taste your blueberry?
Yeah, go ahead. Let's go.
And that was a lot of it too, as much as it was years ago when I had the original idea for the concept.
Dude, that's good.
Yeah.
Sorry, Jeff.
No, I'm glad you guys are.
I got blown away.
Dude, I'm telling you, that was calling my freaking name.
That's good. That's good.
Sorry, what were you saying?
No, it's just, as you create those things, like, can you create something that associates it for you to a memory? So for me, it's, that caramel apple on a stick walking around
I love that.
county fairs as a kid. Like, my parents would be set up selling fruits and vegetables. I'd be bored to tears because I'd be there from, 10 a.m. until 10 p.m., 7 days, 8 days, 9 days in a row. Yeah. I'm like, all right. There's more cotton candy. There's more slushies. There's more caramel apples. There's more like everything, and you how many balloons can you pop with the darts? Or
or in my case, miss the freaking balloon.
Right. That's good. So can you associate it with a memory? And that was more for me. The whole concept originally was that July 105 game. I want something else to drink other than beer. So this is it, and that's the memory for me. I want to go to a dollar dog night down at the Phillies ballpark, but I want a cider with it instead of a beer,
Yeah,
so
for sure.
So creating that, I guess, not just the memory, but the experience. If you were going to, at some point in time, if we were old enough, we made it far enough that it's like, okay, well, dad and son were at the ball game together and dad ordered a cider and the son saw he was drinking that, but he obviously wasn't old enough. But like fast forward 10 years, like maybe the kid's old enough now and dad, and they both go because it was a memory. And it's like, well, yeah, of course we're going to have hardball. Like,
yeah.
So,
because that was the first thing you saw. Yeah.
Yeah. So I was always kind of behind the scenes of how I wanted the brand to kind of grow over time. Just that association with, make it a generational thing. Like, my family's 5 generations into this, and this was sort of the next iteration of the farm. So make that experience something that other people can enjoy for generations. Like, let it carry on.
Awesome.
So, yeah.
I love how much meaning there is behind that. I love when there's, you can have a brand, you can have a business, but having that deep meaning, I think, is really, really cool. To have that story and kind of the why of why you're doing this, I think is really, really awesome.
Thanks. Yeah, we see that now. I think every weekend we get to see it with the families that come back. So the tap room at the farm has been open coming into 4 years now. And every weekend that we're there, we see a lot of repeat customers. And they bring family, they bring friends, they bring, their next door neighbor, whoever it is, and they keep telling our story and keep sharing the experience. And that's another way that it just keeps perpetuating what we were trying to build from the go. And then you see, like, fast forward, and we were in the tap room over the winter, and this family's been coming in probably for the last 3 or 4 years. The daughter's in the military down in Florida, but every time she's on leave and comes home, like, the whole family comes out, and they, hang out at Hardball, and, like, that's their thing. Like, they love coming out and spending that time together at our place. So yeah, so it's been great to be able to share that and open the farm back up. For many years, it was, my parents were farming it, but the farm market was off the farm. They did school tours for many years. So kindergarten through 3rd graders used to come out to the farm, and they'd get, a 2-hour tour.
Those were the best field trips, because you just freaking eat apples all day. Right. Yeah, I love it.
Go home with a bellyache.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, I don't want another apple. But yeah, so it was something I always grew up with, and there was always people around. There was always something happening at the farm, and it feels good to have it come back to life now.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. I saw on the website you have a really cool goal. So, and when you said July 105 baseball game, you want to be, was it like all the major ball games in the country right now? And I know your maps is a lot of counties in PA. So you want to please share with us.
Sure.
Is your goal to be like at MLB games or?
Yeah, that was outside of the, the perpetuating the generational thing of, I want families to have that experience, and dad and son to go out to the ballpark and have a cider and have that carry on. The other goal when I started Hardball was to be in every major minor league baseball stadium in the country. So so we kind of got off to a fast start in 2016, barely a year into actual production. So this is kind of a funny story. So I used to get up at 5 a.m. or so, and I'd hop on my computer and I'd just start sending out emails to major league stadiums, to minor league ballparks, like pretty much any contact I could find, just surfing the web. And so I sent one morning an email to the general, contact us at Citizens Bank Park or whatever, down to the Phillies.
Oh, wow.
So
I freaking love that.
Yeah. So it was like, not unlike anything else I've been doing. I just kind of kept sending stuff out. And so about 2 hours later, I get an email back. I'm like, oh my God, the Phillies got back to me. Like, is this real life?
Yeah.
Like, is this actually? Yeah. And so it was, hey, thanks for reaching out. You actually need to talk to our warehouse guys, because they're the ones that do all the buying. And, here's the contacts, here's their emails,
That's
reach out to them. And I'm like, I'm actually gonna have a chance to meet with these guys.
Yeah.
So that was probably, we'll say June. Well, the season's halfway, not quite halfway over, but just about there. So he was, the food and beverage guy from the Phillies was like, well, reach out December, January, whatever for the coming season. Like, okay, so here's me. I'm excited as can be. I actually heard back from a stadium. And I'm putting it in my calendar. I'm like, all right, 6 months from now, follow up with these guys. So sure enough, start following up, like probably that fall sometime, just to make sure the contact was still good.
Yeah.
I could still,
for sure.
Does this work? Is it just going to bounce back to me? Like I was just being, they're just stringing me along. So I sent an email and like heard nothing back. Like, all right, wait a few weeks. I sent another email. more crickets. I'm like, all right. So finally, like, January rolls around, and I'm like, I'm going to try this one more time, and then I'm going to move on. And so I send that email, and sure enough, they get back to me. They're like, can you meet next week? I'm like, sure, I can meet next week. And Carrie will get a kick out of this because it's, a lot of times we run around with our hair on fire and like we're mixing up stuff last minute and trying to get things out the door or orders out the door now. But at that point, I hadn't yet developed any of the other ciders. So I just had like our cider base.
Got it.
So I'm like, okay, what are we going to take to the Phillies next week?
Yeah.
So I have a soda stream, a cider base, and I'm sitting there with sugar, acid, maple syrup, brown sugar, like you name it. I had all kinds of different sweeteners, and I'm just mixing stuff on my kitchen counter. I mix a batch together, like 1 liter at a time. I put it in the soda stream so I could carbonate it, and I had 12-ounce bottles sitting next to me. And oh, by the way, like the first labels of these 3 ciders just came in, so I hadn't even seen them printed yet. So, as I'm mixing them, I find out that when you put the 1 liter thing of, the soda stream bottle in the thing to carbonate, well, it tells you when you read the instructions that it's not meant for anything other than like water and fruit juice or whatever. So I put cider in, and cider goes everywhere, like literally like flies.
Like
it's like a bottle rocket, right? Like this thing just takes off.
That's what I was thinking.
So now not only do I have to mix up these 3 ciders, but I have to replicate it exactly as I did the one before because I only end up with about 1/3 of a liter left, and I've got to fill a 12-ounce bottle a couple of times with the same cider.
Holy shit.
So, all right, so I'm mixing these on the counter. I finally get those done. Go and meet with the Phillies, and they're like, your product's great. Like, we would love to bring it in for the season. I'm like, okay. They're like, just one thing. You can't have glass in the stadium. I'm like, oh, all right. What can you have? Like, well, aluminum cans are a good start. Usually that's what most people, offer the product in. I'm like, how about draft? Like, well, we don't have any draft lines open, but we can certainly put your cans at all the different portables around the ballpark. Like, okay. So, again, happy me. I'm like, we're going to get into the Phillies. And then, like, the panic sets in as I'm sitting in the parking lot going, like, I need to can cider now. I've never done this before.
Oh,
yes.
So... yeah, in a matter of less than 4 weeks, like lined up everything, got a mobile canner to come in. Now, that had its own set of challenges because we only have about 8-foot ceilings in our barn. And so a mobile canning unit usually has a depalletizer that's much taller, all kinds of different equipment that much taller.
Yep.
So we make it work. We get the cider, in a tank, chilled, carbonated. The mobile canner rolls in. We start canning and run off 300 cases. And sure enough, made it just in time for opening day. But all because I sent one email like 6 months before the season. They finally got back to me. So,
well, asking you shall receive.
Yeah,
really.
It was really cool how we got into the ballpark the first time.
Yeah.
And then that contact at Citizens Bank, they were all affiliated with Airmark. So he gave me some contacts of his other Airmark counterparts. So I actually went and met with the New York Mets then. I went and met with the Pittsburgh Pirates. I had contact with the Orioles, the Cubs. Like, it kind of snowballed from there. We ended up not getting into any of those stadiums because you need an importing distributor. So, which sounds kind of funny, but to get outside of Pennsylvania. So, like, if we're in Jersey now, I need an importing distributor in New Jersey to import the product across the state line. So you need a distributor to be able to service that stadium or account or
so
whatever.
You just can't go from you to the stadium.
Yeah.
Okay.
Huh.
Yeah, unfortunate, but
damn.
So anyway, but it was still really cool to be behind the scenes in the ballpark,
Definitely.
like meeting with major league teams. Like it happened. So that was really cool.
Take me through your mindset when that was all going on. Were you like,
oh man,
oh my God, I can't believe this is happening?
Yeah, I mean, kid in a candy shop kind of, because I walked in the door and, again, you're going in like the media staff, player entrance. So, security, credentials, there's Philly stuff on the wall. Some like, snapping pictures. Like this could be a once in a lifetime thing. So,
Sure.
And then you kind of get ushered back through that stuff and you end up on pretty much the loading dock. Like, not that it was a letdown by any means because the warehouse director's office was back there. But I'm like, I'm behind the scenes. Like, you're seeing literally stacks and stacks and stacks of hot dog buns and like, pallets and pallets full of water, soda, everything else imaginable that they sell in the ballpark. So you're kind of taking it all in. You're trying to pay attention because you're, at that point, I've got, 9 bottles of cider that I just had finished late the night before. I'm like, I hope they're going to like it. I have no idea what these are going to taste like today, but I remember tasting them last night and they were fine. So get ushered into, his office, and he has probably, I want to say there were 3 other warehouse managers in there with him to also taste. And then he brought the Phillies food and beverage manager in. And then 2 other people stopped in because as they started tasting the product, kind of like what you guys did, they're like, this is really good. Get so-and-so in here. And they bring the next person in. I'm like, all right, this meeting's going well.
Yeah. you start to, okay, now I can relax. Go.
A little bit. I'm like, can I take my jacket off?
Yeah.
We're not getting ushered out, 3 seconds after we got here. This is terrible. So get out of here.
No guys in suits.
So that was kind of the mindset. And then again, walking out of there, it was just on cloud 9. I mean, this is gonna happen. 4 weeks from now, if we can figure out how to get cider in a can, it's gonna happen. So we were in there for that season. We were in there for the next season, and then unfortunately the Phillies took back control over the whole food and beverage lineup. And so unless you're writing a very large 6-figure check, we're getting back in the ballpark. Got it. Bit of a letdown there, but I've actually stayed in contact with those folks down there, and so they're every season it's like, man, we need a good cider in here. I'm like, yeah, really can't afford 6 figures to get the cider back in the ballpark, unless you're gonna order that much, So so it was a really, really cool experience.
Oh, but that's cool though, because at least you kept the contact with them, because now who knows what the future holds, man.
Exactly.
Because it's, it blows up even more, and then you're writing the 6-figure check. You never know.
Yeah, you don't. And that's, we've kind of continued to pursue that is, can we surround the ballpark with bars, restaurants, other places that carry alcohol with the cider, and then people start asking for it inside.
Oh, there you go.
Kind of take them, surround them, and then see if you can tilt the scale in your favor a little bit. But we haven't conquered that one yet entirely, but we'll get there.
Well, I think something you mentioned about how they responded to, and you're like, oh shit, I got to figure this out within a week. Yeah. That's such the fun part of business, because you just
think on the fly.
When your back is against the wall, you have no option, but you're like, all right, what can I do? And that's when, I don't know, I think there's just something when you're under pressure, you just perform. At least I perform better under pressure.
Always. I was that way when I played baseball. It's we're down 2, bases are loaded. You
got nothing to lose.
Step up. Right. Yeah. Come through or don't.
Yep, exactly.
Especially in your case, you were just sending emails. So and you mentioned this, that email to the Phillies was no different than the email to so-and-so and to so-and-so. And then it just happened that boom, that one clicked. Yeah. That's really cool.
Yeah. And that's actually how our most recent distributor, it was just an email. It looked like they were maybe bringing in some other local craft brands, but on the beer side, maybe they need a cider. Sent an email at almost midnight, and the next morning before 9 a.m. I got an email hey, we'd like to come up and see your place.
Nice.
Try your ciders. Okay, great.
So did you at any point when you were doing these emails or for the distributor, I guess starting out, did you ever have that imposter syndrome or that self-doubt when you were doing it? Oh, maybe I shouldn't do it? Or was it always just, nah, screw it, I got it, I'm here, I'm sending out the emails, and whatever happens happens?
Yeah, it's kind of I'm gonna go after it.
Yeah.
If it happens, great. If it doesn't happen, we're gonna keep doing it.
All right.
But Carrie would probably attest to this too. So at the time, we had one distributor, one wholesale partner up in the Poconos, and they were doing a really great job for us. But it was time, I was still working a full-time job and doing hardball full-time. So I didn't sleep a whole lot during those years of doing that. I could be in the cidery till 2 or 3 in the morning and then drive an hour. I was living in Bridgewater, so I'd drive an hour back to Bridgewater, sleep for 3 or 4 hours, drive up to work, and then drive an hour from here back to Pennsylvania, make cider at night, and drive an hour back to Bridgewater. So I was doing that triangle almost every day of the week. Nights, weekends, it was whenever I had downtime that we could find time to make cider.
For sure.
And so, that kind of kept me pursuing additional accounts, additional partnerships. And so we needed to get to a certain level of sales, whether it be retail or wholesale or a combination of the two, that I could finally go, all right, no more full-time, Monday through Friday day job. Like, I need to go do Hardball full-time. And so that was always, I think, in the back of my head, to answer that question. It was like, yeah, even if there is doubt, it's not because I'm apprehensive about, do we have a good product, or don't we have a good product, or, can we make it or can't we make it? Those are things you figure out as you go. Mm-hmm. It was more, how much can we possibly take on at one time before I can say enough's enough with the other full-time job and go do this full-time. And so that took 8 years. I did both full-time. So, so I knocked myself out for a long time.
Yeah.
But we got to a point 2.5 years ago. We had our current wholesaler at that time made an introduction to another one for us in Pennsylvania.
Nice.
And they based everything off of the recommendation of our current wholesaler and didn't try a single ounce of product and handed me an order and said, yeah, well, we're going to bring this in. Like, okay.
There you go.
And then about 2 weeks later, the other one, that email I just randomly sent out and heard back from, they came up like that next week, tried the product, gave them a tour of the place, and they're like, all right, we'll send the contract over. I'm like, huh? Like, it never happens that fast. Like, we've been looking for cider for months. Like, you're it. So
perfect.
So we started 2 much larger wholesalers than who we were with in a matter of the same month, which was great. But we had to figure out a whole bunch of stuff from there. Then it was that was kind of the lift off point for us to go, all right, we're in this. We're gonna keep pushing forward. We've got a bunch of different flavors now. We've got the tap room set up. We've got wholesale accounts. We've got our own, distribution partners, and from there, it just everything scale. So
that's great.
Yeah. So it was, I don't think you can. You're gonna have doubt. You're gonna have those fears come in, but you're gonna sleep on them. Wake up the next morning and go like, I got this.
Yeah,
like,
for sure.
Move on.
No, because it is a common thing for a lot of people. I mean, sometimes too, when I'm trying to think of what I want to do, sometimes like, oh, well, what's going to work? Can I do this? Can I do that? And it's all just like, stuff in your head.
Yeah.
But the funny thing is, when you said like, oh, it never happens that fast, but you could also think about it too, like, you did 8 years worth, right? 8 years of sacrifice, man. To sleep 4 hours.
Yeah.
A lot of people, I like my sleep, right? Yeah. Like 4 hours is that you were really grinding. So that probably all just played into it too. And then at some point it was just like, all right, here you are now.
Yeah. You lay the groundwork and at some point you get comfortable enough with what you laid to say, kind of now or never, maybe. Or you go test it out and test the waters in some partial capacity to go, I think I got it, but I'm not entirely sure. And then it's sort of, it's all calculated risk. Like
for sure.
I told you guys earlier, like I'm a very analytical person. It's all calculated for me. And at a certain point you have to throw some of that to the wind and go, let's just see what happens.
Yeah.
It's
been working out, so it's perfect.
Yeah.
I want to segue into talking about your location. I know you have a lot of events going on. I hear you have food trucks. I hear it's a happening place. Why don't we just talk a little bit about that and kind of share, maybe some events you have planned, things like that.
Yeah. So Carrie, who's here with us today, but was a little camera shy, so she's the brains of the operation behind all of the retail stuff happening. So she puts together the calendar like every year. It seems to start a little bit earlier and a little bit earlier as far as the planning. So I know like for 2023, she was already working on that come like September, October this past fall, and our season wasn't anywhere near wrapped up at that point, but yeah, once the weather starts to warm up, we really see an influx of people to the farm. They love being outside. They love the open space. We've got 80 acres that, we don't use all of that for, hardball customers, but we've got the space there if we need to spread people out. But we do have a nice seating area set up we have a 2-acre lake that sits right there that my great-grandfather built in the 1950s. So it's man-made, nice. But yeah, so we hang out around that. The tap room is very small. It's about 500 square feet.
Okay.
And so that building over time has gone from my great-grandparents' antique shop. It was a bookstore of theirs at one point to my parents' farm market. to our tap room now. So that building too is
lots of history,
over 100 and some odd years old. But yeah, that one's changed a few times as well. But yeah, so once we get into mid-April, we will do our adult can hunt. So that's kind of what kicks off the season.
Okay.
And so we send a whole bunch of cans that are wrapped like Easter eggs out into the orchard, and
nice.
People go hunt for cans and prizes and all kinds of fun stuff.
That sounds like a blast.
It's
like that's something we need to do.
Yeah,
come here
for sure.
Yeah, no, it's fun. And then really from there, roll through warmer weather. Hopefully the rain holds off this year. We had 13 straight weekends of rain last year. So
really
to start in March. So that was fun.
I didn't realize that.
It was brutal. But yeah, so we'll have all kinds of different trucks out there. Cousin's Maine Lobster will come out.
I
think, so they'll be out about once a month all season long. And then a lot of local trucks. We have I'd say everything from pizza to tacos to there's a hot dog truck that does all kinds of sausages, hot dogs, wurst, whatever, brats. But Carrie will try and put themes together throughout the summer, throughout the fall. So we'll do everything from we've done a Mardi Gras in the middle of winter. We've done a luau in the middle of winter. We've done St. Patty's Day every year. Thanksgiving Eve, we do a huge bonfire because it's like all of the tree clippings and stuff that we've kind of collected over the course of the year from the farm and just light that. So we have a huge bonfire on Thanksgiving Eve.
Oh, that's huge.
And then we were talking about this before, but our pickle and pierogi event last year.
Yeah.
So that was our biggest event to date, but we had about 2,500 people at the farm on that day. So we have lots of different stuff that'll happen. We put together like the Mount Bethel Meltdown is another one. So it's like grilled cheeses and mac and cheese and like all things cheese, right?
Love it.
So yeah, so we try to find fun things that other people aren't doing in the area. We've kind of paved the way for Mount Bethel and the Slate Belt area, I'd say. Even bridging up to the Poconos and down to the Lehigh Valley, like we were the only cidery in that area for a long time. There's a couple others now, but we were the only one, and we're the only one that presses our own juice and does pretty much everything from grow the fruit to put it in a can. So we do all that on site, but the summer, spring, summer, fall is kind of our time to shine, and that's when a lot of people come out every weekend. There's huge, giant fire pits that are out there.
Nice.
So they're about 5 feet around. Everyone always asks me where'd they come from, and so they came from like a mining or stone quarry in New Jersey, and each one of them weighs about 3,500 pounds. So you can like stand on them, jump on them. They aren't moving. They're not going anywhere. But they start out about 1,000 pounds heavier, and they've ground them down, and then the quarry can't use them anymore, so they just toss them. So we have 6 of those around the lake.
That's cool.
And, groups of people just kind of sit and hang out around them.
That's awesome.
Yeah, especially in the fall when it gets a little cooler at night, or even into November, December. We've got Christmas tree farms all around us, so people go cut the tree, and then they come over for a hot cider and hang out by the fire pits. So
damn hot cider.
Yeah.
Is it like all this like the like alcoholic in that, or is it actually like hot apple cider?
Yeah, it's our fresh pressed cider. We mull it with some mulling spices, and then one of our local distilleries, they make an applejack, and so we press the cider for all their applejack. So we press the cider, take it to them, they ferment it, distill it, and then we take some applejack back, and we'll spike it with applejack that they made, but started from our cider.
There you go.
So.
That sounds like you need for me. I'm gonna need a DD if I go to one of those. I'm gonna be drinking so much cider for sure.
Same here. It's so interesting to me. I've been exposed a little bit to the cider from Adrian, obviously our mutual friend.
Yeah.
I never realized how many flavors there actually were with cider.
Tons.
He showed me a couple, but I'm just blown away by just these 4, and then the other ones that you're mentioning right now.
Yeah.
That's just really, really cool. And I also love that you guys make them yourselves. You do your own ingredients. I think that's really special.
Thanks. Yeah, we try. And every cider is going to make a different cider base. They're going to use a different blend of apples. They're going to use a different yeast strain or yeast strains. And it really depends on what you're trying to be, I think, as a cidery. So there's a lot of them across the U.S. that they may have orchards like we do, but they may have some hard cider varieties. They might have some heirloom varieties that they're making just an apple blend, right? That's going to be much more similar to a champagne, like a really good champagne or white wine, something that you'd be more familiar with. And cider can play in that space because it's just as good. But it's not the direction that we generally go with our cider. So, yeah.
What's the process of making cider? Because you said, you alluded to it's almost like wine. So I'm thinking of my grandpa when he used to make his own wine. He's in his garage with like this big tin and he's crushing the grapes. So is it almost similar to that, except with apples?
It is. So we have a commercial cider press that my dad bought probably in the late 70s, early 80s. And so we can run, like two of us in an 8-hour day can press about 1,000 gallons of cider.
Holy crap.
Yeah, so somewhere right around 16,000 pounds of apples in a day. 16 to 20,000 pounds of apples in a day.
Damn.
Yeah.
That's where the tractor trailer comes in.
Yeah. So, a tractor trailer is going to have somewhere between 40 and 50,000 pounds of apples.
Oh, got it.
So, so it'll take us, 4 days to get through that. But so, once the apples are there, they come. We'll put them in bins if they aren't in bins already, and then there's a bin dumper outside that does nothing more than that. It dumps the bin upward and tips it so that it comes in on a conveyor. There's a pressurized brusher and washer that cleans off the apples as they come in. They go up an elevator, drop down to a grinder that's really loud and noisy, and it chops up the apple into really coarse applesauce. But we're talking everything: the stems, the seeds, the skins, everything goes into the grinder. And then that coarse applesauce gets pumped to another room. And so our press is called a rack and cloth press. There's multiple different styles of presses. So grapes, they generally use a bladder press. Even some cideries will use a bladder press to produce their apple cider. But we use rack and cloth. So again, it's very basic. It's like a nylon rack like this table in the bottom of a stainless steel tray. And then there's a frame that goes on it and a big cloth. It looks like a giant cheesecloth that goes in that frame. And so pump that ground up apple over through a 3-inch hose, fill that cloth up, fold it shut, take the frame off, grab another nylon rack, put that on, put the frame back on, put another cloth in, and you do that 12 times per stack. So every stack's going to give you somewhere between 55 and 60 gallons of cider. So if we're pressing 1,000 of those in a day, I've got to do that like 17, 18 times. And so imagine that if you're standing, we're starting at waist level. So by the time you're at 12, you're up here above my head. So you're holding a hose up and you're moving stuff up here all day long. So your shoulders, your neck, like everything hurts by the end of the day. So we'll once that stack is built, slide it over. There's a hydraulic press that presses that up and squeezes that over the course of about 14 minutes up to 2,200 pounds per square inch on that stack. So the juice is running out. We're collecting it in a holding tank and then pump it from there back to another tank where either we're going to use it for fresh cider, we're going to use it for hard cider, maybe it's going off to a distillery to make applejack. But from there, it depends on what customer it's for. If it's for us, it'll go from that tank to fermenters, and then we start the process. So we're going to add our nutrients, we're going to add our yeast strain, we're going to make sure that we've taken all of our chemical analysis. So we're going to take sugar readings, acid readings, like all kinds of stuff, and make sure the juice is exactly where we want it, so that we're going to come out with the expected ABV that we have to put on every can. And so we start from there and then just kind of let fermentation happen over the course of a week and a half.
Got it.
Yeah, and then we're going to start moving stuff. So
how long are we like start to finish into the can?
About 4 weeks.
4 weeks. Okay.
Yeah, from apple to can.
Not bad. And with 1,000 gallons, you probably get a good amount of cans with that, right? Or, 1,000 gallons a day, 4 weeks, so you're probably looking at what? I don't know, let's just say five, I don't know, like 20,000 gallons or something?
If you were pressing every day?
Yeah.
Yeah. So,
Shit.
yeah, it's a lot.
So how did you kind of just learn all this as you go? Did you kind of learn from somebody else?
The actual cider pressing part I grew up with because that press is older than I am. So I'd stand out there. My dad would be pressing, and there's
cool.
an actual lever on the wall that operates the pump to make the pumice, the ground up apple, come into those cloths. So I'd stand there on an upside down milk crate, and I would just flip the lever on the wall for my dad. Because as you get higher, it gets harder to reach. Like you're holding the hose in one hand and reaching for the lever on the wall over here. So from the time I was a little kid, I knew how to press cider. But the rest of it, after we have actual cider, trial and error. So I know like a lot of craft brewers out there, they started as home brewers and then they just perfected their craft and were like, I want to make a business out of this, and they'll open their craft brewery. I was a little bit more ambitious, I guess we'll say, or naive or stupid. I don't one of the above. But I told my dad to save me 5 gallons, and I fermented 5 gallons, and I said, I can do this. And I went out and bought a 3-barrel fermenter, and so 100 gallons at a time. So I fermented 100 gallons. And while I was doing that, I decided, I probably need to know a little bit about what I'm doing, because I've never done this before other than following an instruction booklet. So started taking some online courses at Harrisburg Community College, because they have an enology and viticulture program. So, figure out how to make wine, you can pretty much figure out how to make cider. So I started doing that online, and then, got into production, was making a couple 100 gallons, probably a year at that point, and putting it in bottles, like just really homebrew scale equipment. And I said, okay, if I'm really going to do this, I need to know a lot more about what I'm doing. And I happened upon this course up at Cornell that was a 5-day, super immersive hard cider workshop being taught by a guy named Peter Mitchell, who is based out of the UK. So he has a teaching cidery over there.
Okay.
So went up to Cornell with a bunch of other colleagues in the cider industry, and a lot of them actually happened to be from Pennsylvania, which was I didn't really think much of it at the time, but now that we're all back here and we're all producing, I'm like, oh, that's kind of cool. We were all in the same class together.
That is cool.
Like way back, this is like, I don't know, late 2015.
Oh, wow.
So, not that it was that long ago, but like 8 years is long enough. We're all, all producing now. So, went up to Cornell for a week, and about, a day into the 5 days that we were there, I'm sitting there like panicking, because I'm like, I don't know anything about what I'm doing. Like, I've been doing it all wrong. Like, everything I've done to this point is wrong. So took that on the chin, came back, revamped the entire process, and kind of got through the next couple of years, and said, okay, we're producing stuff, we're making more flavors, we've got a little bit of experience now, and then just bit the bullet again and said, we still need to be better. Like, we still need to make a better quality cider. We were having some issues with our cans at that point, and just said, all right, we're going to hire a wine consultant, someone I had known from the Penn State Extension office, had gone out on her own and has a wine consulting company now, and worked with her for about 1.5 years and really refined our processes, and said, okay, if we're going to continue to grow, we need to make sure that our processes and systems and stuff are just buttoned up, so that we're good to go from here till whenever we decide we've had enough. Mm-hmm. So we did that, and really refined and honed every piece of our process, and like started from scratch and kind of drew it out and said, okay, here's verbally what we should be doing. Let's make sure we can put it into actual actionable things now. So we did that over the last probably 2 years now. And I think we're in a much better place. We've got, I think, really high quality cider coming out of our facility.
I can definitely attest to that.
Yeah.
Thanks.
I think I'm done right over here as I was putting it down.
Yeah. I definitely do. I don't know if I said this before. I have to compliment your labeling here and just the feel of the can. It's very soft. I just think that goes a long way. So somebody that has never had cider before, right? They hear about this Hardball Cider place. It's in Mount Bethel. They're going with the family, whatever, they'll just go. Which one do you recommend trying for somebody brand new into the game?
Oh, that's an easy one. Do a flight. Try 4.
A flight, okay.
Yeah,
Right.
Pick any 4.
All right, got it.
Yeah, because everyone's going to have a different experience with cider, just like beer or wine. We're all going to drink that caramel, and we're all going to experience it differently, but I don't know what you tasted, and I don't know what you tasted other than the way we can describe it.
I see.
So I'm going to, because we get asked this all the time, right? People come into the tap room. Well, what's your favorite? Well, let's see. Of the ones that are up there today is usually my answer.
Yeah.
But I'm like, that's what I like. What do you like? And so pick them off of stuff that you like. And then if they need, maybe they'll pick 2 or 3, and they'll be like, well, what do you think the 4th one should be? And like, if they haven't picked one of our top 2 or 3 sellers, I'll recommend one of those.
Got it.
But that blueberry is one of our top 2. Our white peach, which I don't have here today, is one of our top
white peach.
Top 2.
Yeah.
But come fall, the caramel.
Oh, this one. I love this one. It was good.
Yeah. So so it just depends partly on the season too. Okay. So if it's coming into fall, do the caramel, do the spiced apple that we have.
Cool.
Maybe a cranberry or ginger cranberry, like that kind of stuff. So so depends.
Right on.
Yeah.
We're definitely going to be going out here. Yeah, I want to see the tap room for sure. I want to see the tap room.
Yeah. See the tap room. And what's your address again, just for people listening?
Sure, it's Hardball Cider, and we're at 805 Orchard Road in Mount Bethel, PA. So a little ironic that it's Orchard Road.
Yeah. Exactly what you orchard. Yeah. But it fits perfectly because you guys have a huge orchard.
Yeah, that's awesome.
You want to move on to the questions?
Yeah, let's hop on to some questions.
So we got questions here. Oh, Adrian had 3 questions. This is going to be good. Awesome.
He's over the limit. Let's cut him off.
You hear that, Adrian? You're screwed, buddy. All right, we're going to start off. Colleen.
All right.
Colleen has a 2-part question. Her first one is going to be, what's a cider flavor you've tried creating but ended up being a big flop?
Ooh.
Huh.
That was good. Because you sort of alluded to this in the beginning, how there's some that you like, some you don't like.
Yeah. So we haven't probably released anything that's been in that category.
Okay.
I would say.
Yeah.
But I think something we've tried recently that I haven't been a huge fan of, at least not yet, would probably have to be, I would say we did a strawberry, so we have that in market now, but that one was really tough to start. So was cranberry. But like something that we haven't released at all yet, it's probably mango.
Mango.
It's and we did a passion fruit, which I'm also not a huge fan of, but I think it was me personally. It's just a very light flavor, and they don't on their own particularly work well with cider.
Yeah, it's tough. We have a passion at the restaurant I work at. We have a passion fruit margarita, and it goes well with the spice. But the passion fruit itself is very strong. It's very, very tough.
Yeah, and we find when we use the flavoring, the aromatics are really great. But once you add it to the cider, they're like gone.
Oh, so it doesn't even, it negates itself. It doesn't even work.
Kind of like you smell it a bit, but the flavor, it just tastes like our regular apple cider. So that one for me is just not something I've been particularly fond of over the years.
Got it.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
So there it is, passion fruit, Colleen, and then your part 2. Oh, this is actually a really good question. What's a flavor you thought wouldn't work out but ended up being amazing?
That is a good one. I mean, the chocolate, we weren't sure was going to work.
Really?
We weren't, yeah.
That's the one we haven't opened yet, folks.
Yeah, I'd say the chocolate was one.
All right, let's open it right now.
Smell it first.
Ready, guys? Here we go. Oh, let's get it on the camera right there. Right
there you go. Yeah.
There you go. Ready? That sounds amazing. It smells delicious.
I'm glad you opened that because I was eyeing it up the whole time.
Yeah, I do. All right, ready? You want to do the honors?
You go. You go. Ladies first.
Mid-sip. Good timing.
Now you're not getting it because I'm going to finish this before it goes right there. That is delicious. Is that one? I want to see. At work, we do a lot with wine. Let me try to get this on the palate. Hold on.
Yeah.
Do you have a bit of that milk chocolate?
It is not milk chocolate.
Damn,
but it's just
it's good.
It's more toward a milk chocolate, but the flavoring itself was more. I'd say the cocoa.
Cocoa,
would be in the chocolate was
Yeah.
sort of balanced with some vanilla.
Nice.
And, some other subtle flavors.
That's my favorite one, by the way.
Yes.
I love this one right here. That one is amazing.
That is tasty. Sweet spot chocolate, very tasty.
Yes. I'm a fiend for sweets too, so that's amazing.
Yeah, blueberry is good, but like these are next level to my taste buds right now. The caramel and the chocolate, at least for me right now.
Yeah. So that was one like we weren't sure.
That's really good.
Really kind of ran the tests, ran a bunch of different chocolates. And then that's what we ended up doing.
Oh, this one's really, really freaking good.
So, yeah. So now with that there, we can start to experiment with some other stuff. Chocolate strawberry, chocolate raspberry, chocolate cherry, other
definitely.
stuff. Down
Cherry chocolate would be amazing.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So, so while it's, on its own, it doesn't sound like I don't know. I would dip, but what we were talking about earlier, like things that would pair well with apple. I would dip an apple in chocolate and eat it.
Oh, 1,000%.
Right?
Yeah.
So why wouldn't they go together? They
Definitely.
should. But you're just always playing with flavor.
It's got a nice aftertaste.
Yeah,
This
that's
sits
where
on
it
its own
really
very well.
Yeah, that's where you really taste it. I think, is that
because something I noticed with the caramel and the chocolate is you don't taste the apple, like, what do you call it, the acidity of the apple?
Yeah.
I guess you taste it a little bit in the blueberry, I think. I don't know if I'm saying the right term, but you don't taste that at all with the chocolate or the caramel.
they may be a little bit softer on your palate, on your tongue. But yeah, the blueberry, because if you took a handful of blueberries and ate them,
For sure.
they're gonna be tart.
Yep.
You'll get the sweetness, but blueberries are tart, raspberries are tart, strawberries are tart.
Makes sense.
But chocolate is generally gonna be a smoother flavor. Caramel, you want it to be a smoother, silkier flavor.
Definitely.
So yeah, I think you'll experience them in the cider, but that's what I was saying, is like you have to play with sugar, acid, and then once you add the flavoring in there, you're gonna keep tweaking. So you might have to back off the acidity a little bit in order to get a flavor to come out.
Got it.
But yeah, it's a whole science.
You hit that one on the spot, though.
Yeah,
I'm
that's
serious. I really like that one. Oh,
did
man.
too.
If for those of you who are sweet tooths out there, definitely need to check that out.
Yeah.
Make
Where,
sure I got
can
that.
people order these online?
They can, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so hardballcider.com, and then there's a cider, like a shop at the top of our site.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah,
Awesome.
we also today, folks, when we did the questions, I did put a link to the website, so you can just go there if you're listening now. It's definitely a week after, so
Yeah.
just kidding. All right, here we go. Stacy, Mrs. Shoemaker, Don's mom. Most popular cider and most popular food truck.
Okay, so most popular cider is an easy one. Our whitewash, which is the white peach.
Mm-hmm.
So
Okay.
we started that out as a seasonal, and we were asked for it so many times outside of when
wow.
we were making it that we just decided we were going to make it a year-round flavor.
Got it.
So,
Awesome.
Yeah,
Love that.
white peach.
Wait, is this chocolate one a year-round flavor?
No, once and done every year. Limited edition.
Damn, I need to get my hands on that.
Got to order a case.
ASAP.
Yeah.
All right, and then most popular food truck.
Yeah.
I mean, Cousin's Maine Lobster is super popular when it comes out.
Don's gonna be making them.
Uh,
go out.
yeah.
I mean, they were on Shark Tank. Like, they were one of Barbara Corcoran's investments on Shark Tank. So, so they definitely draw a crowd. I would say a local truck that actually draws a huge crowd is the Flying V. It's a poutine truck.
Huh.
But they're based out of like the Lehigh Valley, Bethlehem, Allentown area.
Okay.
Awesome.
All right.
So yeah, so good people, good local people.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah.
Awesome. And now we're gonna go, Adrian. Have you? I guess you have. I don't know. Have you ever been on TV?
I have been on TV. It's a loaded question. No. Yeah, so another random story. I ended up on the Rachel Ray show.
I saw this on your on the website. Wait, no.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right,
Tell
so,
us, please.
Yeah, so this one was another, like, kind of like the Phillies story. So
Yeah.
I had a couple of these happen right in a row, and I was just, like, my mind was sort of blown. So the Phillies thing happened, and we got that under our belts. And then later in 2016, I was sitting at home, doing the usual, like, scroll through Facebook just to see. That was before Facebook was just loaded with ads, and you could actually see what your friends were up to and doing.
Oh, right.
Right. So at that point, like, an ad popped up, and it said something about enter for a chance to meet Barbara Corcoran. I'm like, I would love to meet Barbara, like any of the Sharks.
For sure.
Because I was a big Shark Tank fan at the time. So I clicked through it. I'm like, there's no way this is going to be a short application. So I scroll down, and I'm like, hang on, that's it? It's like, contact information, and then what 3 things, if you ever had the chance to meet Barbara, would you ask her? So I'm like, that's easy. Done. Like, typed it up right on my phone, hit submit, forgot about it. A couple weeks go by. I get an email that has one of those real spammy subject lines, and then it's like, in the email, it's like, I need, your driver's license, your bank account info, this thing, that thing. I'm like, yeah, right. Delete, spam, get rid of it. So next morning, I drive into work, because I was still working my full-time gig, And my phone rings. It's like this New York number calling me. I'm like, who's calling me from New York? So I answer it. I'm like, hello? Hi, Geoff. This is Lexi from On Deck Capital. I was calling to see if you got my email last night. I'm like, oh
shit.
You mean that one I just deleted that I thought was absolute garbage that you were trying, the Saudi prince has, $4 billion for you, like one of those emails. Like, no.
Oh, God.
So, she's talking me through it. She's like, yeah, I need all this stuff. Like, any chance you can get it back to me by the end of the day today? I'm like, sure. It was like a long list of stuff. I'm like, yeah, I'll get it back to you. No problem. Okay, great. Cause, you've been selected as a finalist in the contest. And if,
That's awesome.
Yeah, she's like, we have to weed through the finalists yet, but, if you're selected, would you be able to make an appearance in New York City next week on the Rachel Ray Show? I'm like, yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Okay. So this is Tuesday. So she's like, I'll let you know by Thursday, end of day, if you've been selected. I'm like, okay. So not having high hopes. I'm like, all right, I'm a finalist. I don't know how many, finalists there are. So sure enough, Thursday, like mid-afternoon, my phone rings again. It's the same New York number. Like, hey, Geoff, it's Lexi again. I just want to let you know, like, you've been selected. I'm like, huh? And so you can make it to New York next week, right? I'm like, yeah. Okay, great. You're going to be on the Rachel Ray Show, and you have a 30-second pitch to Barbara Corcoran on the show. I'm like, what?
Yo. On the Rachel Ray Show.
On the Rachel Ray Show.
Yeah, but you work well under pressure, right? So,
yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, all right. So now I'm starting to like write out my elevator pitch, right? So you write it the first time and you start editing, and then you go, okay, I think that's probably close to 30 seconds. And you put your phone out and start the timer, and you start reading through it out loud, and you go, oh my God, I'm at 2 minutes. I'm like, I don't know what else to cut out to get to 30 seconds, but I got to cut out 75% of what I just said, or say it really fast. Yeah. I'm like, that's not going to work. So trim it down. Going to New York, they put us up in a hotel overnight, and so car service picked us up the next morning over to the Rachel Ray Show. Yeah, you're like in the side entrance, and as you walk in, it's Rachel Ray on the wall and all this cool stuff. So again, picture everywhere. So get inside. We actually go to the dressing room. They do makeup, whatever, get you prepped. They want to hear your pitch. So someone comes into the room, or a couple people actually came into the room and said, okay, we'll run through your 30-second pitch. They're timing it, making sure you're still good. Like, okay, nerves are starting to set in a little bit. So like hands are clammy and like, all right, we're all ready to go. I'm like, okay. So I found out there's 3 finalists. So I'm one of 3.
Oh, shoot.
And we're all backstage together. And so we're waiting right outside the set door. So as they finish taping one segment, they're going to clear the set, move us in, and set our stuff up. So I've got product there. We're standing behind, all 3 of us are behind a different table. And, as you're walking in, you see like the cameras around, there's a live studio audience. So you're looking at that. And then by the time you like get to your spot and turn around, you realize that Rachel Ray's sitting there, Barbara's sitting there, Curtis Stone, who's a famous chef who I didn't know at the time, is sitting there. You're like, you're pitching to all 3 of them on the show live. Okay. Really nervous at this point. So, getting ready to tape. I'm all set. They tee up the segment. Like Rachel tees up the segment.
Oh, man.
And she looks at Barbara and like, anything else you'd like to add, Barbara? And she's like looking straight at me, and you can see it on the video. And she's like, if you go even 1 second over, you're out. You're done. I'm like,
yeah.
And right?
Shit.
So now you're really like, okay, I got to keep it under 30 seconds. So as she's saying that, out of the corner of my eye here, I can see a shot clock pop up. So you have 30 seconds on a shot clock. That's like,
man.
Oh, they weren't kidding. Like, it's 30 seconds, right? That's it.
It's getting better and better.
So we go through, I did my pitch. I fumble about halfway through it because the couple next to me had this little kid, like 1-2-year-old, and she screams in the middle of what I'm saying and like totally threw me. So I like fumble, recover, finish. I don't think it was anything even remotely close to what I'd actually written down or memorized that I was going to pitch. I just finished it.
This is during your...
This is during it. It's live. Like, they taped it. It's there. It's out there for everybody to see.
That
anytime you want to watch it.
That finalist definitely turned to daughter and was like, what are we going to do when the other contestants go on?
Yeah. That was a sabotage.
So finish the pitch. The other 2 go. And, they say, thank you, everybody. Like, all those pitches were awesome, but, we can only pick, one winner or whatever. And then, Barbara takes it over and she goes, actually, we have a surprise for all of our finalists today. You've all won. We're like,
oh, nice.
What?
That's awesome.
Yeah, so it was really
That's
cool.
awesome.
So we won, each one of us won $10,000 and then a one-on-one with Barbara.
Cool.
At a later date. So got to meet Barbara again. Like, we're sitting down here, like, we just sat down and talked about hardball for like over an hour.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
So it was really cool. She was awesome in person.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
That is such a very cool story.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing that, man.
No problem.
That's cool.
Thank you, Adrian, for that question as well. But you do have two more. What advice would you give a new entrepreneur? And I may just be looking at one right now.
Yeah.
But he has his own business there.
No, as someone who's been in the business world for a long time, whether it be corporate or growing up with a family business or having hardball now for 10 years, you really just, you need to find a way to start, and be as frugal and thrifty and resourceful as you can early on, because we all do it. You see the nice shiny new tank, you see the brand new piece of equipment or the whatever thing it is that you think you need, and you go, oh, that'd be really nice, it'd make my life easier. And then sometimes you splurge and get it and you're like, I'm not really using that the way I thought I was going to.
Yeah.
So the thing that I could have used this big chunk of money on, and I could have gotten all these other things that would have made my life easier, I've tied it up. So bootstrap for as long as humanly possible. We still do it. Any chance we get, like, it doesn't have to be the newest, latest, greatest thing. It just has to work. So that's, if I was starting another business, do it as frugally as possible. Don't let the shiny new thing or whoever you've identified as your competitors, just because they're, spending all kinds of money and doing all kinds of things. Like, it's kind of, keeping up with the Joneses. Like, you don't need to have everything your next door neighbor has just because they have it. Like, you don't know the story behind them. Like, they may be living paycheck to paycheck, and they put on a good show, but you don't really know what's behind, going on behind the scenes. So,
that's very powerful. That is very powerful.
Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. Thank you for that. And did you answer this one already? No. Oh, maybe. He asks, which of your ciders is your favorite?
Oh, yeah. Rise Ball was by far my favorite.
Rise Ball? Well, that was one of the three first ones, right? Or no?
No, so Fastball, Curveball, Splitter were the first three.
Right.
Rise Ball was the first fruited one I ever did.
Oh,
so,
nice.
And it
That's
actually,
right there. True.
Yeah, this one.
I'm looking right at it, folks, so don't worry.
and this one actually started out as a raspberry lemonade. So before lemonades were cool.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it was a raspberry lemonade was the first batch.
Huh.
So,
Love that.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Cool.
That was it.
Yep, that concludes the questions. But
right.
Thank you, folks, for submitting your questions. That was an amazing story about Rachel Ray. That was awesome.
Yeah,
thanks.
That's
Love
cool.
that. Yeah.
That was a cool experience.
Those
like a once in a lifetime thing.
Yeah, those once in a lifetime things are so cool.
Oh,
Yeah.
man, that's crazy.
I met Robert Herjavec once. Similar type story.
That's really cool too.
It was at an event. Real quick story. It was at an event. Like 8,000 people were there. They said, send in your business invention ideas, tweet it to Robert Herjavec. I'm like, let me try this out.
Yeah.
So I tweeted flavored chewing straws. If you tried to quit smoking, chewing on straw, right?
Yeah.
Root beer flavored chewing straw.
Yeah.
And I got picked, and similar thing.
No
It was
way.
like they picked 1, 2, 3, and I'm looking at them like, wait. That's what I tweeted. So it was something similar to that.
That's
and then
so
they
cool.
said, all right, Robert's going to pick 1 out of the 3. And then they picked mine. And I'm like, holy shit. It worked. So I went backstage and talked to him and everything. And he's
that's
like,
awesome.
hey, man, I hated your idea. But he goes, it was the best one out of the 3. So I picked yours. Like, what's up? So then we talked for a little bit.
I can't believe talk about bluntness, man. Oh
Yeah.
my God, I
But
can't.
I'll never forget, you asked like advice, entrepreneurship, something he told me back then. This was in 2018. He said, figure out how you can stand out from the crowd. He goes, you see all those people out there. This was a real estate conference I was at. Everybody wants to be a real estate investor, right? But how can you stand out as a real estate and fill in the blank of whatever business you're in?
Yeah.
How can you stand out? If you can do that, then you'll be successful. And kind of taken that and run with it ever since. So
yeah,
love Shark Tank as well.
Cool. Yeah. No, and I wonder because I've had this happen to me, not from a famous person, but like that's sometimes a disarming technique, is that they'll just throw you a completely different loop. Like I had it happen in an interview once, and like walked in, it was my boss's boss who was interviewing me, and he goes, "So I don't believe in a single thing that you've been working on to this point," because I was at another company who like intimately worked with him, and like, so he goes, "I don't believe any of that stuff, so tell me why I should hire you." And I'm like, okay, so all of the stuff that I've been doing for the last almost 3 years is off the table. So I got to sell this guy on why I should be hired. So it's one of those things, like, you never know what curveball, pun intended, I guess. You're going to get tossed, and it could be in a conversation. It could be your competitor. It could be your next door neighbor. Like, you don't know. It could be from anywhere, but you always have to be ready for it.
That's true.
And how do you, if you can problem solve that, that's the way you stand out, right?
Yeah, so, that's a good point.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that, because I realized that's probably what he did, but also it was kind of like, because I went back there thinking we were going to talk about my invention idea. And then I'm like, shit, what do I ask? He's like, all right, you got 5 minutes with Robert. And I'm like, what do I ask, right?
Yeah.
So that's really cool. That was probably what he did. So
it's an awesome story.
Yeah, that's awesome. Making, hey guys, I'm about to be famous.
Yeah.
I hated your idea.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
So awesome, Geoff. Well, thank you for coming on the show.
No, thanks for having me, guys.
This was
it
was our pleasure. This was a very fun talk.
Yeah. And you'll have to come out and see us at the
top. 1,000%. No, 1,000%. I want to go to a lot of these events. So
yeah, come on out.
Make some time with you.
Absolutely,
and we'll
absolutely. So
you're close enough. So.
Yeah, definitely. I'm a lot closer.
I'll make that. For this damn chocolate right over here, I'm going to be driving.
We'll have a stash in the back room.
Perfect. Yeah, guys. So Hardball Cider out in Mount Bethel, PA. As you listen to in the show, they got a bunch of events, food trucks, stuff all throughout the summer. And if you're listening, you're probably around this area. There's not a whole lot to do. So make sure you head out there to Hardball Cider to have some fun this summer. And when the weather gets warm, bring some friends, bring some family, and drink a whole lot of good cider. We recommend the Sweet Spot chocolate and the caramel. Those are our favorite ones so far.
Yep, absolutely. So thank you again, man, for coming on. I had a lot of fun learning about your story and learning about Hardball Cider in general. It was a lot of fun. Do you have anything like last minute thoughts or second thoughts that you want to say? Or
just if anyone's interested, and I'll throw it out there. So we just started a crowdfunding campaign. So we are offering equity in Hardball. So if anyone's out there looking for a local investment, come check us out at startengine.com/hardballcider. It's on our website too. So any questions, feel free to reach out directly to me. But we're growing, a lot of good things coming, a lot of new flavors coming this year. And we need some help from hopefully the local community to make that all become a reality. We have an 1838 bank barn that we operate in today, and we need a facility that's a little bit bigger and newer. So
absolutely.
So check out that if you get a chance. But otherwise, come out, enjoy the farm, enjoy the warm weather, and a good cider.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Perfect. Awesome. Well, you heard it there, folks. This was a great episode. I'm loving it. I'm telling you, this is the truth right here. I've never tasted anything this good. But thank you for listening, guys. Thank you for coming on again.
Yeah,
I had a lot of fun. Yeah, absolutely. It's our pleasure. Listening to Joe and Don. We'll take it from here on Joe and Don. It's a good thing I know my name in my own podcast. See you guys next week.
Thanks, guys.